The front door clicked shut behind me with the same soft whisper it had made 1,000 times before. I stood in the marble foyer, my heels echoing against the cold stone as I searched through my purse for the third time. Nothing. My car keys weren't there. Damn it, I muttered, retracing my steps in my mind. The bedroom. I'd changed my earrings at the last minute, rushing to make it to Mom's birthday lunch on time. The keys had to be on the nightstand. I slipped off my heels, the coolness of the floor seeping through my stockings as I padded toward the staircase. The house felt different in the afternoon light, too quiet, too still. Usually I'd call out to Antonio, let him know I was home. But something held me back. Maybe it was the way the silence seemed to press against my skin, or how the shadows fell wrong across the hallway upstairs. I reached the top of the stairs and turned toward our bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and through the gap I could see movement. My heart did a small flutter of anticipation. Maybe Antonio was home early. Maybe we could talk, really talk, about the distance that had grown between us like a canyon I couldn't cross. But as I approached, voices drifted through the crack. 2 voices. One was Antonio's, low and intimate in a way I hadn't heard him speak to me in months. The other made my blood turn to ice. She has no idea, does she? Vanessa's voice was soft, almost pitying. My sister. My twin sister, speaking in our bedroom like she belonged there. I pressed myself against the wall, my hands trembling as I fought to breathe quietly. Through the narrow opening I could see them on our bed. My bed. Antonio's shirt was unbuttoned and Vanessa's dark hair spilled across the pillow I'd slept on just hours before. Leslie's always been so naive, Antonio replied, his fingers trailing along Vanessa's arm. She actually believed all those late nights at the office. She believed the story about needing space to work on our marriage. Vanessa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. She believed everything. Just like when we were kids. Remember how easy it was to convince her that Mom loved her just as much as me. My legs gave out. I slid down the wall, my back scraping against the textured wallpaper as I sank to the floor. The words hit me like physical blows, each one landing with devastating precision. Speaking of Monica, Antonio's voice took on a different tone. When are you going to tell Leslie the truth? About what your fathers will really said. Our father, Vanessa corrected, but there was something sharp in her voice. And why would I tell her anything? She's getting exactly what she deserves. Nothing. But the lawyer said. The lawyer said what I paid him to say. Vanessa's voice was cold now, calculating. Leslie doesn't need to know about the other half of the inheritance. She doesn't need to know about the letters. She doesn't need to know about anything. The world tilted sideways. I pressed my fist against my mouth to keep from crying out, tasting blood where my teeth cut into my knuckle. Letters? What letters? And what inheritance? Dad had died 3 years ago, leaving everything to Mom, or so I'd been told. You're sure Monica won't say anything? Antonio asked. Mom's been keeping bigger secrets than this for 30 years, Vanessa said. She's not going to start talking now. Besides, she hates Leslie as much as I do. Maybe more. Why? She's her daughter. The silence stretched so long I thought they'd stop talking. Then Vanessa spoke again, and her words shattered the last foundation of my world. No, Antonio. She's not. Before we continue, please write in the comment which country you are watching this video. We love knowing where our global family is tuning in from. And if this is your first time on this channel, please subscribe. Your support helps us bring even more epic revenge tales of life. Enjoy listening. I don't remember how I got to my car. One moment I was crumpled on the hallway floor, the next I was sitting in my Honda in the driveway, staring at the house I'd called home for 5 years. My hands shook as I gripped the steering wheel, Vanessa's words echoing in my mind like a death knell. She's not. Not what? Not Monica's daughter? That was impossible. I had birth certificates, baby photos, memories of Mom braiding my hair and reading me bedtime stories. I had 28 years of being Leslie Herbert, daughter of Monica and the late Franklin Herbert, twin sister to Vanessa. But even as I tried to convince myself it was a lie, pieces began falling into place. The way Mom's face would go blank when I asked about my early childhood. How she and Vanessa shared private jokes I never understood. The way I'd always felt like an outsider in my own family, watching from the sidelines as they connected in ways I couldn't. I drove to the cemetery where Dad was buried, not knowing where else to go. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the headstones, and I found myself kneeling beside the marble marker that read Franklin Herbert, beloved husband and father. What did you do, Dad? I whispered to the stone. What did you do to me? My phone buzzed. A text from Antonio. Where are you? Thought you'd be back by now. I stared at the message, remembering the way he'd touched my sister's skin, the casual cruelty in his voice when he'd called me naive. How long had they been planning this? How long had I been living a lie? Another text. Monica's looking for you. Something about lunch? Mom's birthday lunch. I'd completely forgotten. The thought of sitting across from her, pretending everything was normal while these secrets burned inside me, made my stomach turn. But maybe I could find answers. I drove to my childhood home, the small ranch house where I'd grown up believing I belonged. Monica was waiting in the kitchen, her silver hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless despite being 62 today. Leslie, there you are, she said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. I was starting to worry. Sorry, Mom. I got held up. She studied my face with those sharp brown eyes that had never looked quite like mine. You look pale. Are you feeling all right? Just tired. I sat at the kitchen table where I'd done homework as a child, where I'd told her about my first kiss, where I'd cried about college rejections. Can I ask you something? Of course. The endearment felt like a knife between my ribs. Do you have any pictures of me as a baby? Like really early ones? Something flickered across her face, so quick I almost missed it. You know I do. They're in the albums upstairs. Not those ones. I mean from the hospital. When I was born. Monica's hands stilled on the coffee cup she'd been holding. Why would you ask that? I was thinking about family history. For Antonio and me, you know. When we have kids. The lie came so easily I surprised myself. But Monica's reaction told me everything I needed to know. Her face went ashen and her hands actually trembled. Leslie, why don't you tell me what's really going on? I looked at this woman who'd raised me, who'd taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my wedding dress, and felt my heart breaking in real time. Who was my real mother? The coffee cup slipped from Monica's hands, shattering against the tile floor. Brown liquid spread across the white surface like a stain that would never come out. Leslie. Please. My voice cracked. Please just tell me the truth. Monica aged 10 years in front of me. She sagged against the counter, her perfectly composed mask finally slipping. How did you find out? So it's true. She nodded slowly. Your father. He was married before. To Isabella. She died when you were 6 months old. The kitchen spun around me. And you were? I was his secretary. We'd been having an affair for 2 years before Isabella got pregnant. The words came out in a rush as if she'd been holding them back for decades. When she died from that accident, someone had to take care of you. Your father, he was falling apart. So I moved in. We got married when you were 2. And Vanessa? Is my daughter. Mine and your father's. Monica's voice was barely a whisper. Isabella never knew about her. I felt like I was drowning in quicksand, each revelation pulling me deeper into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. So we're not twins. Vanessa is 18 months younger than you. We told everyone you were twins. It was easier than explaining. Easier than explaining that you destroyed a marriage and stole a dead woman's child. Monica flinched like I'd slapped her. It wasn't like that. I loved your father. And I raised you. I loved you. Did you? The question came out harder than I intended. Or did you resent me? Did you hate me because I was a reminder of what you'd done? Leslie, please. What about Dad's will? What about the inheritance? Monica's face went white. What about it? What did it really say, Mom? What did it really say? She was quiet for so long I thought she wouldn't answer. Then so softly I almost didn't hear her. He left half of everything to you. The house, the savings, the life insurance. Half to you, half to Vanessa. But you told me. I told you what I needed to tell you. Her voice was getting stronger now, more defensive. You had Antonio. You had your own life. Vanessa needed my inheritance? She needed security. She needed to know she was taken care of. I laughed, a bitter sound that echoed in the small kitchen. And I didn't? You were always so strong, Leslie. So independent. Vanessa was more fragile, more yours. Monica's silence was answer enough. I stood up, my legs shaky but holding me. I need to see the original will. Leslie, I don't think. I need to see it. And I need to see my birth certificate. My real birth certificate. Monica's shoulders sagged in defeat. There in your father's study. In the safe behind the bookshelf. I walked through the house that had never really been mine, past photographs of a family I'd never really belonged to, toward truths I'd never wanted to know. But as I reached the study door, I heard Monica's voice behind me. Leslie, you have to understand. Everything I did because I loved him. I loved your father so much. I turned back to look at her, this woman who'd given me life and taken it away in the same breath. What about Isabella? Did you love her too when you were sleeping with her husband? Monica's face crumpled. She was dying anyway. Cancer. Your father was so lonely and I was there and... She was dying of cancer when you were having an affair with her husband? I felt something inside me break completely. Not just my heart but something deeper. The part of me that had always tried to see the good in people, to find excuses for their cruelty. That part of me died in that moment, and in its place something cold and clear and furious was born. Isabella was my mother, I said quietly. My real mother. And you let her die believing her husband was faithful. You let her die without knowing she had a daughter who would grow up calling her murderer mom. Leslie, that's not fair. And then you stole my inheritance. You stole my identity. You let me believe I was someone I wasn't for 28 years. I walked into the study and began pulling books from the shelf, looking for the safe Monica had mentioned. Behind a row of old law books I found it. The combination was my father's birthday, at least the man I'd thought was my father. Inside were documents that would change everything. Isabella's death certificate. My real birth certificate, listing Isabella Maria Santos as my mother. The will in my father's handwriting, clearly stating that half of his estate should go to my daughter Leslie, born to my beloved first wife Isabella. And at the bottom of the safe, a bundle of letters tied with a faded pink ribbon. I pulled them out with trembling hands. The first one was addressed to my dearest Leslie in my father's careful script. The date was just 2 months before he died. My dearest Leslie, if you are reading this, then I am gone, and I pray that Monica has found the courage to tell you the truth. I know I should have told you myself, but I was a coward. I was afraid of losing you, afraid of shattering the family we'd built on lies. Your mother, Isabella, was the most beautiful woman I ever knew. She was kind and funny and brave even when the cancer was eating her alive. He loved you so much, Leslie. She would hold you for hours, singing old Spanish lullabies and telling you stories about her childhood in Mexico. He never knew about Monica. She never knew about Vanessa. I am not proud of what I did, but I cannot regret it because it gave me you and your sister. But I can regret the lies. I can regret the way I let Monica convince me to hide your true parentage. You are not like them, Leslie. You have your mother's heart, her strength, her capacity for love. I see it in the way you care for others, in the way you fight for what's right. You are Isabella's daughter in every way that matters. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope someday you can forgive us all. With all my love and deepest regret, your father. I read the letter 2 times before the words really sank in. My father had known. He'd known the truth would come out eventually. He'd known Monica would try to hide it. There were 5 more letters in the bundle. Each one contained memories of Isabella, stories about my first 6 months of life, details about the mother I'd never known. In one, he wrote about how Isabella had made him promise to tell me about her when I was old enough to understand. In another, he described her final days, how she'd held me and whispered that she would always watch over me. The last letter was different. It was dated just 1 week before he died, and it was addressed to Monica. Monica, I know you think I don't see what you're doing, but I do. I see the way you look at Leslie, the way you treat her differently than Vanessa. I see the resentment you carry and I understand it. But she is innocent in all of this. She is just a child who lost her mother. I am leaving half of my estate to Leslie and I want you to honor that. I want you to give her Isabella's jewelry, her photographs, her letters. I want you to tell her about her mother with kindness, not bitterness. If you cannot do this, if you cannot love Leslie as she deserves to be loved, then I am asking you to let her go. Don't make her pay for my sins. Don't make her pay for our sins. I hope you can find it in your heart to do what is right. Franklin. I sat in that study for an hour, reading and rereading the letters, feeling the weight of 28 years of lies pressing down on me. When I finally emerged, Monica was waiting in the living room, her face streaked with tears. "Did you read them?" she asked. "All of them. Then you know he wanted me to tell you. He wanted me to give you your mother's things. But you didn't. I couldn't. Every time I looked at you I saw her. I saw the woman who was everything I wasn't. Beautiful, pure, worthy of his love." Monica's voice was raw with old pain. "I tried to love you, Leslie. I really did. But every day you reminded me of what I'd done. Of what I'd destroyed." I felt a strange sort of pity for her then, mixed with the rage that was still burning in my chest. "So you punished me for it. You and Vanessa both." "Vanessa doesn't know about the letters. She just knows that her father loved you differently than he loved her." "And Antonio?" Monica's face hardened. "Antonio came to me 6 months ago. He said he'd figured out there was more to the story. He said he'd done some digging, found some records. He wanted to know the truth." "And you told him?" "I told him enough. I told him about Isabella, about the will. I thought if he knew you were going to inherit money, he'd treat you better. I thought he'd love you more." I stared at her in disbelief. "You thought he'd love me more if he knew I was rich?" "I thought he'd stay with you. I thought he'd take care of you. I didn't want you to be alone." "So you told him and he told Vanessa?" "I assume so. They've been spending a lot of time together lately." The pieces were falling into place now, forming a picture so ugly I could barely look at it. Antonio hadn't fallen out of love with me, he'd never loved me at all. He'd married me thinking I was poor, the unwanted daughter of a working-class family. But when he'd learned the truth, he'd seen an opportunity. Not to love me but to use me. And Vanessa. Vanessa had always resented me, but now she had a reason to hate me. I wasn't just the sister who'd gotten more attention. I was the bastard daughter who'd stolen half of her inheritance. "Where are my mother's things?" I asked quietly. Monica looked surprised by the question. "In the attic. In a trunk with her name on it. I want them. Leslie, I don't think. I want them now." Monica led me upstairs to the attic, where she pulled out a cedar trunk marked Isabella M. Santos in faded gold lettering. Inside were treasures I'd never known existed. Photographs of a woman who looked exactly like me, jewelry that sparkled even in the dim light, letters written in Spanish that I would need to translate, and a small wooden box containing a saint's medal and a lock of dark hair. At the bottom of the trunk was a baby book, filled with Isabella's careful handwriting. Every milestone was recorded. My first smile, my first tooth, the day I said "Mama" for the first time. The entries stopped abruptly at 6 months, and on the last page in shaky handwriting was a note. "My beautiful Leslie, I am so sorry I cannot stay to watch you grow. But I will always be with you in your heart and in your dreams. Be strong, mi amor. Be brave. Be everything I know you can be. All my love, Mama." I closed the book and looked at Monica, who was watching me with something like fear in her eyes. "I'm taking all of this," I said. "Leslie, please, we can work this out." "We can." "No." I stood up, the baby book clutched to my chest. "We can't. There's no working this out. There's no going back." I carried the trunk down to my car, making 3 trips to get everything. Monica followed me, pleading, but I didn't listen. I was done listening to lies. As I drove away from the house where I'd grown up, I felt something. Clarity. The hurt was still there, sharp and raw, but underneath it was something else. Something that felt like power. I knew who I was now. I knew what had been done to me. And I was going to make sure everyone paid for it. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I checked into a hotel downtown, a place where Antonio would never think to look for me. I spread Isabella's photographs across the small table by the window, studying the face that was so much like mine. In one picture she was holding a baby, me, and smiling with such pure joy that it made my chest ache. My phone had been buzzing all evening. Antonio, Vanessa, Monica, all of them looking for me. I ignored them all and instead called the one person I thought I could trust. "Leslie." My best friend Carmen's voice was warm with concern. "Are you okay? You sound strange." "Carmen, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." "Of course. What's wrong? Have you ever noticed anything off about my family? About the way they treat me?" Carmen was quiet for a long moment. "Leslie, what happened? Just answer the question. Please." "Honestly, yes. I've always thought they were weird with you. Your mom and Vanessa, they have this way of talking to each other like they're sharing secrets you're not part of. And Antonio. She trailed off. What about Antonio? I never liked him. I know you love him, but he's always treated you like you're not quite good enough. Like he's doing you a favor by being with you. The words hit like a physical blow, not because they were cruel but because they were true. I'd spent so long making excuses for the way my family treated me that I'd stopped seeing what was right in front of me. Carmen, I need you to do something for me. Can you find out what law firm handled my father's estate? Leslie, you're scaring me. What's going on? I told her everything. The affair, the lies, the stolen inheritance, Antonio and Vanessa's betrayal. Carmen listened without interrupting, and when I finished she was quiet for a long time. Jesus Christ, she finally said. Leslie, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I need to know what my legal options are. I need to know if I can still claim what's mine. I'll make some calls. But Leslie, are you safe? Where are you staying? I'm fine. I'm at the Marriott on 5th Street. Room 418. I'm coming over. Carmen, you don't have to. I'm coming over. We'll figure this out together. While I waited for Carmen, I sat on the bed and read through more of my father's letters. Each one revealed new layers of deception, new ways Monica had twisted the truth. She told me my father had been proud of my independence, my strength. What he'd actually written was that he worried I'd become too hard, too closed off, because I'd never known a mother's love. She told me he'd wanted me to have a simple life, free from the complications of wealth. What he'd actually written was that he hoped I'd use my inheritance to honor Isabella's memory, maybe by starting a scholarship fund for young mothers facing cancer. Every memory I had of my childhood was tainted now. Every bedtime story, every birthday party, every moment of what I'd thought was love. All of it was built on lies. Carmen arrived with Thai food and a bottle of wine, and we sat on the hotel bed eating pad Thai and planning my next move. I called my cousin Miguel, she said. He's a lawyer, specializes in estate law. He says if you can prove the will was altered or hidden you might have a case. But you'll need evidence. I have the original will. And the letters. That's a start. But Miguel says you'll need more. You'll need to prove that Monica and Vanessa knew about the original will and deliberately hid it from you. I thought about the conversation I'd overheard between Antonio and Vanessa. I might be able to get that. How? I need to record them. I need to get them to admit what they did. Carmen looked worried. Leslie, that sounds dangerous. If they've been lying to you for this long, who knows what else they're capable of? I can't just let them get away with this, Carmen. They stole 3 years of my life. They let me believe I was someone I wasn't. I know. But promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't do anything stupid. I promised, but even as I said the words, I was already formulating a plan. I was going to get my revenge, but I was going to do it smart. I was going to destroy them the same way they destroyed me. Slowly, methodically, and with surgical precision. The next morning, I drove to the law office that had handled my father's estate. I'd looked up the lawyer Monica had mentioned, Robert Kellerman. He'd been practicing for 30 years, had a good reputation, and according to his website, specialized in estate planning. When I walked into his office, his secretary looked confused. Mrs. Carey? I thought you were coming in next week. I need to speak with Mr. Kellerman about my father's estate. Franklin Herbert. The secretary's face went pale. Let me check if he's available. She disappeared into the back office and I could hear hushed voices. When she returned, she looked nervous. Mr. Kellerman will see you now. Robert Kellerman was a man in his 60s with silver hair and kind eyes. But when he saw me, those eyes filled with something that looked like guilt. Leslie, he said, standing behind his desk. I wasn't expecting you. I have some questions about my father's will. Of course. Please sit down. I remained standing. I want to see the original will. The one my father actually wrote. Kellerman's face went ashen. I'm not sure what you mean. I mean the will that left half of his estate to me. Not the fake one you showed me at the reading. Leslie, I think there's been some confusion. There's no confusion, Mr. Kellerman. I found the original will in my father's safe. I know what he really wanted. And I know you helped Monica hide it from me. Kellerman sank into his chair. How did you find out? Does it matter? What matters is that you helped them steal from me. You helped them lie to me. Leslie, you have to understand. Monica came to me in tears. She said you were fragile, that you couldn't handle the stress of managing that much money. She said your father had expressed concerns about your stability. So you just believed her? She had a letter. From your father. It said he'd changed his mind about the will, that he wanted everything to go to Monica and Vanessa. A letter you didn't bother to authenticate. Kellerman was quiet for a long moment. I should have. You're right. I should have investigated further. But Monica was so convincing and she was grieving and I thought I was helping. You were helping her steal my inheritance. What can I do to make this right? I leaned forward, my hands flat on his desk. You can help me get back what's mine. All of it. The money, the house, everything. Leslie, I don't know if that's possible. The estate has been settled for 3 years. The money has been spent, the house has been sold. The house was sold. Monica sold it about 6 months ago. She said she needed the money for medical bills. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. My father's house, the place where Isabella had lived, where I'd spent my first 6 months of life, gone. Sold to pay for Monica's comfortable retirement. Where did the money go? Into accounts for Monica and Vanessa. I can get you the exact amounts, but it was substantial. Nearly $500,000. And you're going to help me get it back. Leslie, I want to help you. But I need to think about this carefully. I need to consider the legal implications. The legal implications of helping someone steal $250,000? I think those are pretty clear. Kellerman nodded slowly. What do you want me to do? I want you to document everything. Every conversation you had with Monica, every decision you made, every piece of evidence you ignored. I want you to help me build a case that will get me my inheritance and put them all in prison. Leslie, prison is a strong word. They committed fraud, Mr. Kellerman. They forged documents, they stole money, they destroyed evidence. If that's not prison-worthy, I don't know what is. I left the law office with a promise that Kellerman would cooperate fully with my case. But as I drove home, I realized that legal justice wasn't enough. I wanted them to feel the same betrayal I'd felt. I wanted them to experience the same devastation of having their entire world revealed as a lie. I was going to give them exactly what they'd given me, the complete destruction of everything they thought they knew about their lives. I returned home that afternoon with a plan. Antonio's car was in the driveway and I could see him pacing in the living room through the front window. When I walked in, he rushed to me with what looked like genuine concern. Leslie, thank God. I've been worried sick. Where were you? I needed some space to think. About what? What happened at your mother's lunch? Monica called looking for you and she seemed upset. I studied his face, looking for signs of the man I'd overheard in our bedroom. But Antonio was a good actor. He looked tired, worried, like a husband who'd been genuinely concerned about his missing wife. We had a fight, I said carefully. About family stuff. It's not important. It's important if it's upsetting you. Antonio reached for my hands and I let him take them. Leslie, I feel like we've been distant lately. I want to fix that. I want us to be close again. The sincerity in his voice made my skin crawl. I'd like that too. Good. Why don't you go rest? I'll make dinner. We can talk about whatever's bothering you. I went upstairs to our bedroom, the same room where I'd discovered his betrayal just 24 hours ago. But now I was looking at it with new eyes. I was looking for evidence, for clues, for anything that might help me understand how long this had been going on. In Antonio's nightstand, I found a receipt from a jewelry store. A diamond necklace purchased 2 weeks ago. My heart sank until I realized it wasn't for me. I'd never received any jewelry from Antonio. It was for Vanessa. I photographed the receipt and kept searching. In his closet, hidden behind a row of suits, I found a small overnight bag. Inside were clothes, toiletries, and a hotel key card from the Riverside Inn, the same hotel where Vanessa had been staying since her apartment lease ended last month. The pieces were falling into place. This wasn't a new affair. This was a calculated plan that had been in motion for months, maybe longer. I heard Antonio calling from downstairs. Leslie? Dinner's ready. I went down to find he'd made my favorite pasta dish, complete with candles and wine. Under other circumstances, it might have been romantic. Now it felt like a performance. This looks wonderful, I said, taking my seat. I thought we could use a nice evening together. Antonio poured wine for both of us. I've been thinking about what you said about us being distant. I want to change that. What do you think went wrong? Antonio appeared to consider the question carefully. I think I've been too focused on work. I've been neglecting you, neglecting us. But I want to make it up to you. How? Well, I've been thinking. Maybe we should take a trip. Get away from everything, just the two of us. We could go to that bed and breakfast in Napa you're always talking about. I smiled, wondering if he was planning to take Vanessa there instead. That sounds nice. When were you thinking? Next weekend? I could take Friday off, make it a long weekend. I'd like that. We ate dinner making small talk, and Antonio was charming and attentive in a way he hadn't been in months. If I hadn't known the truth, I might have believed he was genuinely trying to save our marriage. After dinner he suggested we watch a movie. We settled on the couch and Antonio put his arm around me, pulling me close. I forced myself to relax against him, to play the part of the loving wife. Leslie, he said softly, I love you. I know I don't say it enough, but I do. I love you too, I replied, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I want you to know that no matter what happens, no matter what anyone tells you, I'm here for you. I'm on your side. There was something in his tone that made me look up at him. What do you mean? I just mean that families can be complicated. Sometimes people say things or do things that might seem hurtful. But I want you to know that I'll always support you. Antonio, what are you talking about? Nothing specific. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. That's all. But I could see it in his eyes now. The guilt, the fear, the knowledge that his world was about to come crashing down. He knew I was close to discovering the truth and he was trying to manage me, to control the narrative before it got away from him. Antonio, I said carefully, is there something you need to tell me? No, of course not. Why would you ask that? You seem nervous. Like you're hiding something. I'm not hiding anything. I'm just worried about you. I decided to test him. I found something yesterday. In Monica's house. Antonio's body tensed, though he tried to hide it. What kind of something? Letters. From my father. About my inheritance. Antonio went completely still. What letters? He left me money, Antonio. A lot of money. But Monica never told me about it. Leslie, I think you might be misunderstanding something. Am I? Because the letters are pretty clear. He left me half of everything and Monica hid it from me. Antonio was quiet for a long moment and I could see him calculating his response. Even if that's true, Leslie, the estate was settled years ago. You can't just... Can't just what? Can't just claim what's rightfully mine. That's not what I meant. I just meant that legally it might be complicated. How would you know about the legal complications, Antonio? Unless you already knew about this. I didn't know anything. I'm just saying. You're lying to me. I pulled away from him, standing up from the couch. You know something about this. I can see it in your face. Leslie, you're being paranoid. Am I? Or am I finally seeing clearly for the first time in years? Antonio stood up too, and for a moment I saw something dangerous flash in his eyes. Careful, Leslie. You're talking about things you don't understand. What don't I understand? Explain it to me. You don't understand how the real world works. You don't understand that sometimes people have to make difficult decisions. You don't understand that not everything is about you. There was the mask slipping. The real Antonio, the one who saw me as naive and foolish, the one who thought I was too weak to handle the truth. You're right, I said quietly. I don't understand a lot of things. But I'm learning. I went upstairs, leaving Antonio standing in the living room. I could feel his eyes on me, calculating, wondering how much I actually knew. In our bedroom, I sat on the bed and called Carmen. How did it go with the lawyer? She asked. Good. He's going to help me build a case. But Carmen, I need you to do something else for me. What? I need you to help me set up a recording device. I need to catch them admitting what they've done. Leslie, I don't like this. It sounds dangerous. I can handle Antonio. But I need evidence. I need them to confess. Carmen was quiet for a moment. But we do this my way. Safe and smart. Agreed. I'll pick up the equipment tomorrow. But Leslie, promise me that if this gets out of hand you'll walk away. Promise me your safety is more important than revenge. I promise, I said, though I wasn't sure I meant it. The next day, Carmen arrived with a small digital recorder and a plan. We would set it up in the living room, hidden behind a picture frame, and I would orchestrate a conversation that would force them to reveal the truth. The key, Carmen explained, is to make them think they're safe. Make them think you don't know as much as you do. Let them get comfortable and then start asking questions. I invited Monica and Vanessa over for dinner that night, telling them I wanted to apologize for my behavior at the birthday lunch. Antonio was suspicious, but I convinced him it was part of my effort to repair our relationship. They arrived together, Monica looking nervous and Vanessa looking annoyed. We sat in the living room for drinks before dinner, and I could see Antonio and Vanessa exchanging glances. I want to apologize, I began, for the way I acted yesterday. I was upset about something stupid and I took it out on you, Mom. I'm sorry. Monica looked relieved. It's okay, Leslie. We all have bad days. I've been thinking about what you said about family being complicated. And I realized you're right. Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions to protect the people we love. Vanessa was watching me carefully. What kind of decisions? Well, like when Dad died. You had to handle all the legal stuff, all the paperwork. That must have been really hard. It was, Monica said. Your father didn't make it easy. He was always so secretive about money. What do you mean? He kept documents in different places, had accounts I didn't know about. It took months to sort everything out. Did you find everything eventually? Monica hesitated. I think so. Why? I was just wondering if maybe there was something you missed. Some account or investment that we don't know about. Antonio leaned forward. Leslie, why would you think that? I don't know. I just keep thinking about how hard Dad worked, how careful he was with money. It seems like he should have left more. He left plenty, Vanessa said sharply. Mom and I have been very comfortable. I know. I just meant for all of us. For our family. Leslie, Monica said carefully, your father left what he wanted to leave. He made his wishes very clear. Did he? Because I found some papers in his study yesterday. Some letters. The room went dead silent. I could see Monica's hands trembling, see Antonio's jaw tighten. What kind of letters? Vanessa asked. Letters to me. About my inheritance. Leslie, Antonio said, not again, you are being paranoid again. Am I? Because they seemed pretty clear. He wrote about wanting to leave me half of everything. That's impossible, Monica said, but her voice was shaking. He never mentioned anything like that to me. Maybe he didn't mention it because he knew you wouldn't approve. Vanessa stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous. Dad left everything to Mom. We were all there for the will reading. Were we? Or were we there for a performance? Leslie, what are you accusing us of? Antonio's voice was dangerous now. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm just saying that maybe there's more to the story than we know. There's nothing more to the story, Monica said. Your father's wishes were clear. He wanted me to take care of everything. Including taking care of me? Of course. You're my daughter. Am I? Because sometimes I feel like I'm not really part of this family. Like I'm missing something important. Monica and Vanessa exchanged a look and I knew I had them. They were scared and scared people make mistakes. Leslie, Monica said, I think you're letting your imagination run away with you. Your father loved you. We all love you. But not enough to tell me the truth. What truth? Antonio asked. The truth about who I really am. The truth about what I'm really entitled to. The truth about what you've all been hiding from me. Vanessa laughed, a harsh sound. You want the truth, Leslie? Fine. The truth is that you've always been jealous of what Mom and I have. You've always felt like you deserved more than you got. Maybe I did deserve more. You deserved exactly what you got. Nothing. Vanessa, Monica warned. No, Mom. I'm tired of tiptoeing around her feelings. Leslie, you want to know the truth? The truth is that Dad felt sorry for you. He felt guilty about the way your life turned out, so he wrote some letters making promises he never intended to keep. How do you know what he intended? Because I'm not stupid. Because I pay attention. Because I know that you were never really his daughter. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. Monica went white, Antonio looked panicked, and Vanessa looked like she immediately regretted what she'd said. What did you just say? I asked quietly. Nothing. I didn't say anything. You said I was never really his daughter. What did you mean by that? I meant that you were always distant with him. That you never connected with him the way I did. No, that's not what you meant. You meant something else. I looked at Monica, whose face was crumbling. Tell me, Mom. Tell me what she meant. Leslie, please. Tell me. Monica broke down completely. You're not my biological daughter, but you are your father's daughter. Your father was married before. To Isabella. She was your mother. Which you found out yesterday. Antonio and Vanessa looked shocked that she'd actually said it, but I felt only satisfaction. I had them on tape now admitting the truth. I wanted them on tape, so I had to act like I didn't know about any of this. So Isabella was my real mother? Yes. And you were having an affair with my father while he was married to her? Yes. And when she died, you moved in and stole her daughter? It wasn't like that. And then you lied to me for 28 years about who I was? Leslie, please understand. And you stole my inheritance. You took the money my father left me and kept it for yourself. The money was complicated. It wasn't complicated. It was theft. Antonio stood up. Leslie, that's enough. You're upset, but you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years. I know exactly what you all did to me. I know about the affair, the lies, the stolen money. And I know about you and Vanessa. Antonio went pale. What about me and Vanessa? I know you've been sleeping with her. I know you've been planning this together. Leslie, you're being paranoid. Am I? Then explain the hotel receipts. Explain the jewelry. Explain why you were in our bedroom yesterday afternoon talking about how naive I am. Vanessa looked panicked. Antonio, what is she talking about? Leslie, I think you need help. I think you're having some kind of breakdown. The only thing breaking down is your lies. I stood up, feeling powerful for the first time in years. I want you all to know that I've recorded this entire conversation. I have evidence of everything. The original will, the letters, the receipts, the testimony from the lawyer who helped you forge documents. Leslie, you can't, Monica started. I can and I will. I'm going to destroy all of you the same way you destroyed me. I walked to the hidden recorder and held it up. Every word. Every confession. Every admission of guilt. Monica was crying now, huge sobs that shook her whole body. Leslie, please. I raised you. I loved you. That has to count for something. You raised me on lies. You loved me like a woman loves a stolen diamond, always worried someone would find out it wasn't really yours. What do you want? Vanessa asked. Money? We can give you money. I don't want your money. I want justice. I want you to feel exactly what you made me feel. I want you to lose everything you thought you knew about your lives. Leslie, please, Antonio said. We can work this out. We can. We can't work this out. There's no coming back from this. There's no fixing this. There's only consequences. I looked at each of them in turn. Monica, who had stolen my identity, Vanessa, who had stolen my inheritance, Antonio, who had stolen my trust and my love. You have 24 hours to think about what you've done. After that, I'm going to the police, to the district attorney, to anyone who will listen. I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you are. I walked toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Antonio, I want you out of my house tonight. If you're still here in the morning, I'll call the police. Leslie, this is my house too. Actually, it's not. It's in my name. Remember? Because my credit was better when we bought it. I left them sitting in the living room, destroyed and panicked, and went upstairs to pack a bag. I was going back to the hotel for the night, but tomorrow I was going to start the process of reclaiming my life. The next morning, I met with Carmen and a criminal attorney she'd recommended. Cindy Valdez, a woman in her 50s with steel gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. This is substantial, Cindy said, reviewing the documents I'd brought. We have fraud, forgery, theft, conspiracy. The recording you made last night is particularly damaging. What happens now? Now we build a case. We gather every piece of evidence, every witness, every document. And then we present it to the district attorney. How long will that take? A few weeks, maybe a month. These things move slowly. What about the inheritance? Can I get that back? That's a separate civil matter. But with the evidence we have, I think we can make a strong case for recovering what was stolen from you. I spent the morning giving Cindy a detailed statement about everything I'd discovered. She was particularly interested in the lawyer who'd helped falsify the will reading. Kellerman's cooperation will be crucial, she said. If he's willing to testify about what Monica asked him to do, we have a very strong case. He said he would cooperate fully. Good. I'll contact him this afternoon. I left Cindy's office feeling hopeful for the first time in days. Justice was coming slowly but surely. But when I returned to the hotel, I found Antonio waiting in the lobby. Leslie, please. We need to talk. There's nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about. You're destroying innocent people. I laughed bitterly. Innocent people? Antonio, you were sleeping with my sister while lying to my face about working late. How is that innocent? That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Antonio looked around the busy lobby, then leaned closer. It's about the money. You don't understand what you're doing. That money, that inheritance, it's not just sitting in a bank account. It's been invested, used, spent. Even if you win, there's nothing left to recover. Then they'll have to pay it back. With what? Monica's living on Social Security. Vanessa has debts. I make good money, but not enough to pay back $250,000. That's not my problem. Leslie, please. Think about this rationally. If you press charges, you'll destroy 3 lives. For what? For money that doesn't exist anymore. This isn't about money, Antonio. This is about the truth. This is about justice. Justice. Antonio's voice was getting louder. You want justice? Then let's talk about justice. Let's talk about how you've been living in a house I pay for, driving a car I bought, wearing clothes I provide. Let's talk about how you've never worked a day in your life because I've been supporting you. I work. You volunteer at a nonprofit. That's not work, Leslie. That's a hobby. The cruelty in his voice took my breath away. Is that really what you think of me? I think you're a spoiled woman who's never had to face the real world. I think you're having a breakdown because for the first time in your life you're not getting everything you want. Everything I want. Antonio, all I wanted was for the people I love to be honest with me. All I wanted was to know who I really was. You know who you are. You're my wife. You're Monica's daughter. You're Vanessa's sister. That's who you are. I'm Isabella's daughter. I'm Antonio's heir. I'm someone who deserves better than lies and theft and betrayal. Antonio's face hardened. You're nothing without us, Leslie. You're nobody. You have no family, no friends, no skills, no education worth anything. You think you're going to destroy us? You're going to destroy yourself. We'll see about that. I walked away from him, but his words followed me. For a moment I wondered if he was right. Without the life I'd built on lies, who was I really? But then I remembered Isabella's letters, her strength, her courage even in the face of death. I remembered my father's words about how I had her heart, her capacity for love. I wasn't nothing. I was Isabella's daughter, and I was going to honor her memory by fighting for the truth. Over the next 2 weeks, Cindy worked tirelessly to build our case. Kellerman provided detailed testimony about Monica's deception. We found bank records showing how the inheritance money had been used. Monica had bought a new car, taken expensive vacations, and given Vanessa a substantial down payment on a house. Antonio had received money too, though he tried to hide it through a complex series of transfers. But the most damaging evidence came from an unexpected source. While cleaning out Isabella's trunk, I found a key taped to the bottom. It opened a safety deposit box at a downtown bank, a box that had been in Isabella's name and transferred to me after her death. Inside were documents that changed everything. Medical records showing that Isabella had been in remission when she died. The cancer hadn't killed her. Insurance investigator reports suggesting that her car accident might not have been accidental. And most shocking of all, a letter from Isabella to her sister in Mexico, dated just 2 days before her death. My dearest Rosa, I am writing this letter because I am afraid. I have discovered that Antonio is having an affair with his secretary. I have evidence, photographs, hotel receipts, love letters. I confronted him last week and he became violent. He has never hit me before, but I saw something in his eyes that terrified me. I am planning to leave him and take Leslie with me. I have spoken to a lawyer about divorce and I am going to file the papers next week. I wanted you to know in case something happens to me. Antonio has been acting strange lately. He keeps asking about my life insurance policy, about what would happen to Leslie if something happened to me. I think he is planning something terrible. Please, if something happens to me, make sure Leslie knows the truth. Make sure she knows that her mother loved her and fought for her until the very end. All my love, Isabella. I sat in the safety deposit box viewing room, holding the letter with trembling hands. Isabella hadn't died of cancer. She died because she discovered the affair and tried to leave. And my father, the man I'd grieved for, the man whose letters I'd treasured, had murdered her. Cindy was stunned when I showed her the letter. This changes everything, she said. This isn't just about fraud anymore. This is about murder. But it was 30 years ago. The statute of limitations. There's no statute of limitations on murder. And if we can prove that Monica knew about this, that she was complicit in covering it up, she's an accessory. We brought the letter to the police that afternoon. Detective Maria Santos, ironically sharing my mother's surname, was assigned to the case. She was a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a gentle manner, but I could see the steel beneath her surface. This is a serious accusation, she said. We'll need to reopen the investigation into your mother's death. What does that mean? It means we'll exhume the body. We'll look at the accident scene again. We'll interview anyone who's still alive from the original investigation. The thought of Isabella's body being disturbed made me sick, but I knew it was necessary. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe months. These things take time. What about the fraud charges? What about Monica and Vanessa and Antonio? Those will proceed separately. The district attorney has reviewed your case and he's confident we can get convictions on multiple charges. I left the police station feeling overwhelmed. I'd wanted justice for the lies and theft, but murder? That was something else entirely. That was a darkness I wasn't sure I was ready to face. But as I drove home to the hotel, I thought about Isabella's letter. She'd been planning to fight for me, to take me away from the lies and danger. She died trying to protect me. The least I could do was fight for her. The arrests came on a Wednesday morning. I watched from my car as police cars surrounded Monica's house, as they led her away in handcuffs. Antonio was arrested at his office, and Vanessa was taken from her home. The charges were extensive: fraud, forgery, theft, conspiracy, and for Monica, accessory to murder after the fact. The DA had found evidence that Monica had known about Isabella's suspicions, had known about the insurance investigation, and had helped cover up the truth. The story made the local news, and suddenly everyone knew about the woman who discovered her entire life was a lie. Reporters called constantly, wanting interviews, wanting to know how it felt to learn that your father was a murderer and your mother was a thief. I didn't talk to any of them. I had nothing to say to strangers about my private pain. But I did have something to say to the 3 people who'd destroyed my life. I went to see Monica first. She was being held without bail, deemed a flight risk. When they brought her into the visiting room, she looked years older than she had just weeks before. "Leslie," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm so sorry." Are you? Are you really sorry, or are you just sorry you got caught?" "I'm sorry for all of it. I'm sorry for the lies, for the money, for everything." "What about Isabella? Are you sorry for helping my father kill her?" Monica flinched. "I didn't help him kill her. I didn't know what he was planning. But you knew something was wrong. You knew she was going to leave him. I knew she'd found out about us. I knew she was angry. But I never thought." "You never thought what?" "That a man who would cheat on his dying wife might be capable of murder." Monica was crying now, tears streaming down her face. "I loved him, Leslie. I loved him so much I couldn't see what he really was." "And what about me? Did you love me? Even a little?" "I tried to. I really tried. But every time I looked at you I saw her. I saw the woman who had everything I wanted. And I saw the reminder of what we'd done to get it. So you punished me for it. I punished myself for it. Every day. Every time I was cruel to you, every time I favored Vanessa, every time I let you believe you weren't good enough, I was punishing myself. I stared at this woman who'd shaped my entire life, who'd given me love and poison in equal measure. That doesn't make it right. No, it doesn't. Nothing I did was right. But Leslie, you have to understand, I was so young when this all started. I was just a secretary who fell in love with her boss. I never meant for any of this to happen." "You never meant for Isabella to die?" "Of course not. When I found out what Antonio had done, I wanted to go to the police. But he said they'd never believe me. He said they'd think I was involved. He said we'd both go to prison, and what would happen to you and Vanessa then? So you kept quiet." "I kept quiet, and I spent 30 years living with the guilt. 30 years knowing that I was raising a murdered woman's child. 30 years trying to make it right by being a good mother to you. You weren't a good mother to me. You were a guilty woman trying to ease her conscience. Monica sobbed harder. You're right. You're absolutely right. I failed you in every way possible. But Leslie, please, I'm begging you, don't let this destroy you. Don't let our sins poison your life. My life was already poisoned. I'm just trying to clean it up. I left Monica in that visiting room and never saw her again. She died in prison months later, a heart attack brought on by the stress of the trial. I didn't attend her funeral. Vanessa was easier to face because I'd never expected much from her. She was being held in a different facility, and when I visited her, she was angry rather than remorseful. This is all your fault, she said the moment she saw me. You couldn't just leave well enough alone. I could say the same thing about you. What was I supposed to do? Let you come in and take half of everything? Let you destroy our family? I was part of your family too, Vanessa. I was your sister. You were never my sister. You were the constant reminder that Mom chose another woman's child over her own. I was a baby. I didn't choose any of this. No, but you benefited from it. You got to be the good daughter, the sweet one, the one everyone felt sorry for. Do you know what it's like to compete with a dead woman for your father's love? I felt a stab of unexpected pity for her. I know what it's like to compete with a living one. It's not the same thing. You never had to watch Mom look at you and see someone else. You never had to hear Dad talk about how much you looked like your mother, how much you reminded him of her. That's because I didn't know Isabella was my mother. And whose fault is that? You could have asked questions. You could have pushed for answers. But you were always so passive, so willing to accept whatever we told you. I trusted you. I trusted all of you. And that was your mistake. Trust is for fools, Leslie. Love is for fools. The only thing that matters is protecting yourself. Is that what you were doing when you slept with my husband? Protecting yourself. Vanessa's face hardened. Antonio came to me. He said he'd figured out about the inheritance, said he wanted to help me keep it. One thing led to another. How long? How long what? How long were you sleeping with him? Does it matter? It matters to me. Antonio doesn't love anyone but himself. Surely you knew that. I thought I knew a lot of things. Now you know better. Now you know that everyone is out for themselves. Everyone will betray you if the price is right. I looked at this woman who shared my father's blood, who'd grown up in the same house, who'd called me sister for 28 years. Not everyone. No. Then why are you sitting here talking to me instead of trying to help me? Why are you pressing charges instead of forgiving your family? Because you're not my family. You never were. I left Vanessa in her cell and felt only relief. Whatever connection we'd had, it was severed now. I was free of her anger and resentment and poison. Antonio was the hardest to face, not because I still loved him but because I'd loved him the most. He was in a minimum security facility, and he looked almost relieved when he saw me. Leslie, he said. I was hoping you'd come. Why? Because I wanted to explain. I wanted you to understand why I did what I did. I understand perfectly. You did it for money. No, it's not that simple. Then explain it to me. Antonio was quiet for a long moment. When I married you, I thought I was getting a simple life. A quiet wife, a normal family, no complications. But then I started noticing things. The way Monica treated you differently than Vanessa. The way you looked nothing like either of them. The way you seemed to know less about your own family history than I did. So you investigated. I got curious. I started asking questions, doing research. And eventually I found out about Isabella. I found out about the money. And you decided to steal it. I decided to claim it. Leslie, you have to understand, I was supporting you. I was paying for everything. I figured if you inherited money, it would be our money anyway. So what did it matter if I worked with Monica and Vanessa to access it? It mattered because it wasn't yours. It was mine. You would have given it to me anyway. You give me everything. I gave you everything because I loved you. Because I trusted you. Because I thought you loved me back. I did love you. I do love you. No, you don't. You love having someone who asks no questions, who makes no demands, who's grateful for whatever scraps of affection you throw her way. Antonio's face crumpled. That's not true. Isn't it? Antonio, when was the last time you asked me about my dreams? When was the last time you asked me what I wanted out of life? We talked about things. No, you talked. I listened. You made plans. I agreed to them. You decided what kind of life we'd have and I went along with it. Because you were happy. You seemed happy. I was happy because I didn't know any better. I thought that was what love looked like. I thought that was what marriage was supposed to be. Leslie, I know I made mistakes. I know I hurt you. But we can fix this. We can start over. No, we can't. There's no starting over from this. There's no coming back from this level of betrayal. You're really going to throw away 5 years of marriage? I'm not throwing anything away. You already threw it away when you decided to lie to me and steal from me and cheat on me. Leslie, please. I'm begging you. Don't do this. Don't end us like this. I looked at this man who'd shared my bed, who'd held me when I cried, who'd promised to love me forever. We ended a long time ago, Antonio. I'm just finally admitting it. The trial lasted 3 months. Monica died before it concluded, but Antonio and Vanessa were convicted on all charges. Antonio got 5 years for fraud and conspiracy. Vanessa got 7 years for the same charges plus perjury. The civil case was settled more quickly. With the criminal convictions, it was easy to prove that my inheritance had been stolen. The court ordered full restitution, plus interest and penalties. Antonio's assets were seized. Vanessa's house was sold. Monica's estate was liquidated. I received $400,000. More than my father had originally left me, thanks to the penalties and interest. It was enough to start over, to build a new life on my own terms. But the most important victory came from the murder investigation. The exhumation of Isabella's body revealed evidence that her death hadn't been accidental. The car had been tampered with, the brakes had been cut. My father had murdered her as surely as if he'd put a gun to her head. The case was officially reopened, and though my father was beyond prosecution, the truth was finally revealed. Isabella Santos had been murdered by her husband to prevent her from leaving him and taking their daughter. The woman who'd raised me had been complicit in covering up the crime. I held a memorial service for Isabella at the Catholic church where she'd been married. I invited her sister Rosa, who flew in from Mexico. She was in her 70s now, but she looked so much like the photographs of Isabella that seeing her took my breath away. She would be so proud of you, Rosa told me. She would be so proud that you fought for the truth. I should have fought sooner. I should have asked questions. You were a child and then you were a woman who'd been taught not to ask questions. But you found your strength eventually. You found your voice. Rosa stayed for a week and she told me stories about Isabella that I'd never heard. How she'd been a teacher before she married my father. How she'd wanted to travel the world. How she dreamed of having a daughter who would be stronger than she was. She used to say she wanted you to be fearless, Rosa told me. She wanted you to be the kind of woman who would never let anyone silence her. I thought about that as I began to rebuild my life. I bought a small house in Isabella's old neighborhood, close to the church where she'd prayed. I started working, really working, at a nonprofit that helped women and male escape abusive relationships. Yes, both gender, because I realized women can also be manipulative too, like Monica and Vanessa. I used my experience, my story, to help others find their own strength. I also started writing. I wrote about Isabella, about the woman she'd been and the daughter she'd tried to protect. I wrote about the lies I'd lived with and the truth I'd fought to uncover. I wrote about the difference between love and possession, between family and blood, between justice and revenge. The book was published 2 years later. It became a bestseller not because it was sensational but because it was honest. It was the story of a woman who'd lost everything she thought she knew about herself and found something better. The truth. 5 years after that day I forgot my keys. I stood in the cemetery where Isabella was buried. I'd had her headstone replaced with something more fitting. Isabella Santos Herbert, beloved mother, brave woman, forever remembered. I came here every month, sometimes to talk to her about my life, sometimes just to sit in the quiet and remember. Today was different. Today I had news. I'm getting married, I told the headstone. His name is Miguel and he's Carmen's cousin. You remember Carmen? My best friend. She's the one who helped me through everything. Miguel was a lawyer, but more than that, he was a good man. He'd known my story from the beginning, had helped me through the legal battles, had been patient while I learned how to trust again. He knows about you, I continued. He knows about Isabella Santos, about the woman who fought for her daughter until the very end. He knows that I'm not just Leslie Herbert anymore. I'm Leslie Santos Herbert and I'm proud of both names. I placed fresh flowers on the grave, White roses, Isabella's favorite according to Rosa. I wish you could be there. I wish you could see the woman I've become. But maybe she could see. Maybe she knew that her daughter had finally found her voice, had finally learned to fight for herself. Maybe she knew that her death hadn't been in vain, that it had eventually led to justice. I stood there for a long moment, feeling something I hadn't felt in years: complete peace. The weight that had pressed down on my chest for so long was finally gone. The nightmares had. I touched the headstone one last time. Thank you, Mama. Thank you for being strong enough to leave those letters. Thank you for fighting even when it seemed hopeless. Because of you, I learned that I could fight too. As I walked away from the cemetery, the sun broke through the clouds, warming my face. I thought about my wedding next month, about the life Miguel and I would build together, about the advocacy work I'd started for others in similar situations. My phone buzzed with a text from Miguel. "How are you feeling, mi amor?" I smiled as I typed back, "Happy. Really, truly happy." And I was. For the first time in my adult life, I was genuinely, deeply happy. The happiness wasn't just about Miguel or the wedding or even the justice we'd achieved. It was about something deeper. The happiness that comes from knowing who you are, from living authentically, from turning pain into purpose. I got into my car and drove home, windows down, music playing, feeling like I could fly. The woman I'd become was stronger than I'd ever imagined possible. She was a fighter, a survivor, a force for change. She honored her mother's memory not through silence and fear, but through courage and action. Isabella Santos had died for the truth. I lived to share it. And in that truth, in that justice, in that new beginning, I had found something precious beyond measure. I had found myself and I was free.